Good evening, Gaston County, and welcome to the Gaston County Primary Candidate Forum, hosted at Gaston Christian School, sponsored by Gaston Association of Realtors and the Gaston Business Association. I'm Steve D'Averia, Senior VP at the GBA, and on behalf of our community, we're so glad that you all are here in person or online watching it streaming. I would now like to introduce Head of School, Dr. Mark Stout, to open our welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. And we really count this as a privilege and honor to be able to use our facilities for an event like this. I've said it many, many times. We would rather it wear out than rust out, so it needs to be used. And this is a wonderful way of getting a service to our community. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you, candidates, for taking out of your busy lives to sacrifice your time to try to provide the best quality candidates that we can for all of our offices. Let me open us with a word of prayer. Father, I do pray that you be with us, be with all the candidates, and we pray that you would help them to have clarity of mind as they answer their questions. I pray for all of them that you would bless them and bless all the families that are here and those that are watching from their homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. I'd now like to introduce our sponsor of tonight's event, the Gaston Association of Realtors, and Katie Goforth.
I am with the Gaston Association of Realtors tonight. I'm also a Gaston Christian parent, very proud Gaston Christian parent, but we are glad to have you here. We are glad to be able to help sponsor the event tonight. We look forward to hearing from you from all these candidates. We as Realtors know the importance of the decisions that leaders make and how it affects property owners and how it affects us as we advise folks on real estate. So we're glad to be here to be a part, and we thank you, candidates, for your willingness to serve.
Thank you, Katie. For those that are unable to watch this evening live, we will have this on the Gaston Business Association's YouTube channel in the next 48 hours. And then again, we are streaming live this evening. I would now like to bring up and introduce our moderator of tonight's program. He is going to share a little bit of the details on how each of the segments are going to work and make those formal introductions. Now I'd like to introduce Patrick Mumford, CEO of the Gaston Business Association.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everybody. So we have a pretty packed agenda this evening. I really can't see anybody out there. These are super bright lights. So all of you that are hoping to be in office, this is what you get to deal with at your board meetings, is bright lights and you can't see anybody in the audience. So we're going to have a program tonight with Republican and Democrat candidates for the primary for the U.S. House of Representatives. That's District 114. We'll have Republican candidates for the North Carolina House of Representatives. We'll have Democratic candidates for Gaston County Board of Education in the Gastonia Township. Republican candidates for Gaston County Board of Commissioners, Dallas Township, and the Gaston County Sheriff. So the way this is going to work, we'll call up each of those offices one at a time, and the candidates will have 2 minutes apiece for introductory comments and introduce themselves to you. We'll go through questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. Steve is going to be the timekeeper, so you may see a little card go up. He's going to inform people when they have 15 seconds left and when they need to stop. What we've instructed to each candidate is do not stop mid-word or mid-sentence. You can finish their sentence, but please don't start another stream of thought. And then at the end, we will have 1 minute for each candidate to do a wrap-up. Then that group will step off the stage. We'll invite the next group to come up throughout the whole night. So as Steve said, we are live streaming this, and we will house that YouTube video on our YouTube page, as well as our website, which is gastonbusiness.com. So we look forward to the evening, and these questions that you'll hear came from investors of the Gaston Business Association as well as the Gaston area Realtors. So this is a little bit business-centric in the questioning, and that's by design. So if you all are ready to start, I'm going to sit over here and call up the first group. Oh, and one other thing. Some candidates were unable to physically be here. And in 2 cases, we're going to see a brief video, about 2.5 minutes, of the candidates. And in that case, the people running in opposition will be by themselves, and I'll just ask them the questions. Those that couldn't be here and wanted to provide the video are well aware of that. And so otherwise, we will have in-person conversations. So this is not a debate. And what we have asked the candidates to do is save any rebuttal to a response from the other candidate to their 1-minute period at the end. So you're not going to see a back and forth between candidates. We'll just go down the line, ask the question, and get their responses. Okay, so let's start the fun. We are going to start with the Democratic candidates for U.S. House District 114. So Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Cargo, and Ms. Womack, will you please come up and sit in whatever order the Spirit calls you to sit in. And in fairness of who starts and who gets the first questions, I'm just going to start right here with Mr. Caldwell, and we'll go down the line. Next questions, we'll start with Mr. Cargo, and then it'll wrap back around. Okay, any questions from you all? You understand where we're headed? All right, let's start with Mr. Caldwell. Timekeeper, are you ready? All right, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for testing. My apologies for that. As he said, I am Brent Caldwell, and I'm running for Congress in North Carolina's 14th Congressional District. This campaign continues a lifetime of activism for me. I have previously worked on multiple political campaigns, and as a labor organizer, I was always behind the scenes. But in light of current events, which I find to be a very serious test of the nation, I felt I wanted to get out here and run because there's some things that need to be said loudly and clearly that I'm not hearing in the public sphere. To give some background, I am an attorney in Charlotte. I went to law school at Duke. I have a master's degree from the London School of Economics, and I graduated from Ole Miss. On this campaign, I think we need to get back to the founding values of the nation, and we need to have a serious discussion about liberty and democracy in this country. What does liberty mean with respect to a woman's right to choose what happens to her own body or for people to arrange their own marital relations? What does democracy mean? And is partisan gerrymandering acceptable? Is voter suppression acceptable in a truly democratic nation? I would say certainly not. But in this, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, we can choose to take a different path, and that is what I'm out here traveling the district calling on us to do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amit Carbo. I live in Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm 25 years old, and I'm running for House of Representatives, just like my fellow candidates here. I'm running because of me, someone is part of the generation Gen Z. I've never seen real hope in this political space. Seeing my candidates sell out my country and do things like increase premiums for our elders, making things like student education very expensive, is things that are just that I want to see change in this country. Something I think about is that I was born in the year 2000, and the debt for the entire country was $6 trillion. Now the debt is $38 trillion. We still don't have a comprehensive healthcare system. Like I said, people's student debt is out of control. Student debt is $1.8 trillion. We're doing wars like with useless wars in Venezuela. We don't have a comprehensive public transit system. I want to see real change in this country, and I want to see for our elders and our future generation to prosper. I want to see real policies that help us, like Medicare for all, like universal child care, universal public education. I want to see a real fundamental change in our politics and in our future. So that's why I'm running, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakeisha Womack, and I am one of your candidates for North Carolina's 14th Congressional District. I've been a small business owner for the past 20 years. I started my consulting firm in a small town called Evergreen, Alabama, where I worked with the Women's Business Center to help women in rural counties build business plans so that they could get access to SBA funding. I moved to Charlotte in 2016, fell in love with the city, and relocated my business here. And currently, my primary client is Aspire Community Capital, which is an emerging CDFI, and I design loan products for small business owners as well as technical assistance programs to help them get access to capital and funding. I'm running for Congress because I have a 20-year-old son who you've probably seen walking around taking pictures, and I'm concerned about his future. I'm concerned about his ability to buy a house one day and start a family because of the way our economy is going. But I'm also concerned about my parents. I'm concerned about whether they're going to have Social Security to depend on in the future and whether they're going to have access to medical benefits. Because if both of those levers fall, it's going to fall on me to make sure that they're taken care of. And I believe that we should have an economy that works for everyone. And a part of that responsibility comes from Congress. How do we ensure that that our safety net for our seniors is in place and that we're building a bright future for our young people? So I want to go to Congress to help stabilize our healthcare system, to help increase the income that comes into working families so that business owners don't have to look for subsidies and look for handouts, but they have customers who are able to pay for their goods and services to support their businesses. So I'm really excited to be here with you all this evening and to answer all of your questions. And if you have more questions, feel free to go to my website, womack4nc14.com, and I would love to answer any questions that you don't get answered tonight here. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for staying within the time limit. We're off to a great start. So since we started with Mr. Caldwell, the first question goes to Mr. Carbo. It actually is a follow-up to some of what you said previously. So as you mentioned, the federal budget deficit reached $1.8 trillion in 2025, and our current national debt stands at a little bit over $38 trillion. Federal entitlement spending, which includes mandatory spending on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, is a primary driver of annual federal outlays. If elected, what specific reforms would you propose to reverse the current financial trajectory our nation faces?
Well, right now we're dying a death of 1,000 cuts in this country from multiple different financial deficits. One thing that you just said with the deficit being $38 trillion, one thing that the London School of Economics actually did a study on, someone who's alumni here, said that we're spending $1 trillion a year on urban sprawl, on our infrastructure. And where I live in Huntersville, they did a study showing we spend $1.15 for every dollar we get to service North Mecklenburg for every dollar we get back in tax revenue. So we're losing money on the majority of places like North Mecklenburg, but mostly places in the union that are suburban-like. We have to change our infrastructure and build places that actually make profit in our society. But we also have to do things like Medicare for all. So we're not spending trillions of dollars to let middlemen get in between us and our health insurance and for universal education. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Womack.
Thank you. Well, I think that we need to have a responsible federal budget. So I would say as a congressperson, I would look at where are we spending money, but also where do we have money coming in. Currently, we're giving tax breaks to a lot of corporations, but we're also having to subsidize their workers with food benefits and housing benefits. I don't think that corporations should be able to get tax benefits if they're not paying their workers a living wage and if they're not paying their tax obligations. Just like we all pay into our taxes and then we wait until the end of the year to see if we deserve a refund, I think it should be the same way with corporations. They should pay their taxes up front, and if they're doing the right thing by being a good citizen and paying their workers a fair wage, then they can get a tax refund as well. But I think that we have to make sure that corporations are paying their fair share in taxes and that we have a responsible federal budget that is meeting the obligations for working families.
Mr. Caldwell.
This is not an issue that our political discourse has been handling in a mature manner in the last 25 years. People go out there and they say that our debt is driven by illegal immigrants getting benefits or foreign aid. The reality of the situation is that our debt is driven, as you noted, by Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and the military budget. This is something that the American people want, and because they want it, we need to run our government in a way that allows us to afford it. The tax cuts of the Bush and Trump administration have contributed to the largest part of the debt that we have today, as well as the unfunded wars in the Bush administration, which were terrible wastes of money. There is a segment of elites in our society who view government as a way to extract as much benefit as they can while giving nothing back, and that must change by changing our tax policy. I'm not saying necessarily even increasing taxes for everyone, but we must make sure that we are taxing wealth as it is created today, for example, through Elon Musk and others who have large fortunes in stocks, but not necessarily in income.
Right. The next question goes to Ms. Womack to start. How do you define success in serving as a U.S. House representative, and what is the most important skill required to be effective?
Well, I think the most important skill is to be able to effectively communicate. Not only communicate with constituents, to be able to come back and share with you all what is happening in Washington, but also to be able to communicate with the people that I'm working with. So I know that a lot of people think that compromise is a dirty word, but it is necessary that if you go to Congress, you do have to work across the aisle. That doesn't mean that you bend over and take whatever the other side gives you, but it does mean that you look at legislation not from a Democratic lens or from a Republican lens, but you look at it to see, is it going to have an effect on working families in this country? And we have to get out of the mindset that it's red or blue, but it's really what's about right and wrong for our country. And so I think that as an effective communicator, I would be working with people no matter what their background is to ensure that we're passing legislation that is putting more money in the hands of working families so that you all can support the businesses in your community and ensure that your tax base is growing so that you're not having to increase property taxes and increase sales taxes to meet your obligations.
And you clear with the question? So we're going to go to Mr. Caldwell. But if you need the question repeated, just ask me.
I define success as a representative in Congress in two ways. The most important way is that you're providing material benefits for your constituents by raising the minimum wage, by ensuring that they have health coverage, and by doing what we can to influence the housing market to make sure that affordable housing is available to everyone. And also, in my situation, I would work to grant universal child care to help grow families. And then another very important way is, as a member of Congress, I think we need more politicians that provide a hopeful message in this country and that remind Americans that we are a young country that is still of great possibility. Looking forward, I see not only was this the great American century, but the great American centuries to come. Our benefits are inherent and our strength is enormous, and we need to marshal that to reach toward great goals. The idea that government can never do anything effectively, or that our best days behind us, or that we cannot do things like cure cancer or colonize Mars or any of those great reaches of ambitious projects is something that I think is mistaken and something that elected officials should work to counter.
What success would mean to me is to, by the two candidates said, is be successful messaging to show that you are truly working for your people, even if you can't pass every single legislation like you want, such as something that I want, Medicare for all, free public education, still trying to make sure that you're fighting to see that future come to fruition. One thing that we're seeing that too much in Washington is dirty compromise, where they're doing things like cutting or Medicare, Medicaid for older people, and it's very disheartening to see bipartisanship only seen to do something bad for working class people. Success would mean that showing that we can have bold ideas in Congress and that to fight for them and to stand on ideals that make sense to help people at all levels. So success would definitely be being a successful communicator and a successful fighter in Washington and showing that you want to help your constituents no matter what, running on a populist message and policies that's going to help everyone.
All right, the next question, we're going to start with Mr. Caldwell. So the topic of home purchases for use as rental properties has been receiving a great deal of attention recently. Earlier this month, the focus shifted from voluntary market activity to restrictive federal policies that curb financial support for large-scale institutional buyers. What is your position on this issue?
I actually strongly support President Trump and, before him, progressive activist call to limit the ability of corporations to buy single-family homes. My legal practice is as a real estate attorney, and before that I worked in real estate finance at some of the largest law firms in the world on commercial mortgage-backed securities. So I have intimate knowledge of these markets, and I've seen how they can be distorted by these large forces of capital that can buy up property and pay significantly above market rates because they have an analysis that says it will be worth X amount in 5 years. Well, the young couple who's trying to buy their first home before they have their first child can't expend those kind of funds. I believe in the free market wherever it makes sense, but just as we don't allow water to be completely subject to the free market and we highly regulate utilities and healthcare, housing is something that we can't just allow to be subject to the ravages of the market. The government has great force, which it uses in Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and it should continue to apply that to make sure that we all have an affordable, decent place to live.
I absolutely do agree with limiting how corporations can buy single-family houses and just rent properties because, of course, that's things. The housing is a lifeblood for people. Housing, food, water, shelter. Of course, we need. These are tenets that we need to live. It's a matter in life of death. But also on top of that, the problem is that they're buying single-family homes, which is also the majority of a lot of homes that's even allowed to be built in the majority of areas, like let's say from Mecklenburg County. They're buying. Single-family zoning was meant to artificially limit the amount of homes that were meant to be built in the area, which is why housing is expensive, and then they end up buying these homes at prices that are artificially inflated anyways, because we don't build the necessary amount of housing. So while I do want to limit, of course, the amount of housing that's built, I also want to do big changes to our zoning codes because our zoning code is literally meant to build up the wealth of people who've already had homes for decades and to limit the amount of people that can get in from a younger generation, and also Jim Crow because it was meant to limit black people and poor whites as well. So I want to also change our zoning codes.
Well, I think that's a great question, but it's also a tough question because I think that we all agree that there should be limitations on corporations being able to buy up single-family homes in communities. And I think that that has caused a huge problem in our country. And I do believe that there should be limitations on the amount of housing that they can purchase so that we can ensure that families have the opportunity to buy a home, because that is truly one of the paths to the American dream. And one of my biggest concerns are people who are not buying homes. Where are they going to live when they retire? And so we do have to make sure that there's a pathway for home ownership so that people have a forever home and that they can generate generational wealth so that they have something that they can pass along to the next generation. So I absolutely support making sure that there are limitations on institutional purchases.
I think I'm going to check in with the timekeeper. Do we have time for one more question before wrap up? Okay. All right, so this will go to Mr. Carbo. What role, if any, do you feel the federal government should play in regulating the rapidly changing artificial intelligence environment?
Me personally, I think the government should play a big role. We should definitely do something like nationalize artificial intelligence or more democratize it. Instead of letting companies like Facebook, like Meta, Salesforce, lay off thousands of workers, and these CEOs use these technologies of the future for economic gain only for themselves and at the expense of working class people. We should definitely focus artificial intelligence toward things like public libraries, like universities, for people who are going to use these technologies ethically and have something like a national data cloud where the barrier of entry to get in and use these technologies is much easier instead of having private companies steal our data and then lay us off on top of that. So definitely I would like to have a more democratic system of how we use artificial intelligence and have the barrier of entry be easier as well for small businesses to use these technologies that way, and also to protect worker rights, because we're seeing how this technology is being used to automate workers away. And if it's like this today, what's it going to be like in 2060? So definitely need to do like a nationalization plan.
So I definitely believe that there should be some regulation around AI, especially when it comes to how images are being used and how people's data is being used. I think one of the major problems that we're seeing now with AI are the data centers, where are they being placed and how they're extracting resources from small communities and a lot of rural communities. And so one of the issues that I would like to do more research on is how do we take some of the manufacturing facilities that have been built for high energy and resource use and to convert those into data centers rather than allowing these companies to build new facilities and extract resources from areas that were not designed to be used for high resource use. So I think that there are a lot of issues that we need to address, and that is something that will require more research and that we can solve.
So in addition to my other activism, I have regularly written a newspaper column, and I wrote a column last year called "You Are parentheses probably not ready for AI," and I think that is very much the case. People do not fully grasp the scale of the change that is going to occur. If you think of 2000 to 2025 and all the changes we have now, smartphones and Wikipedia and things like that, it's going to be exponentially greater than that in the next 25 years. I am already myself on the waiting list for a home assistance robot that will be launching this year. So it's not only going to come for white-collar jobs, but it's also coming for blue-collar jobs. And you have to reflect on a situation where an employer doesn't have to hire new employees. They train in AI, and then they copy and paste new employees. If we do not prepare for this and adjust our social compact as needed, we're going to see a situation where, as I say on a statement on the front page of my website, we will have the world's first trillionaire, but unemployment will be 30%. So we need rapid changes, and we must center humans at the policy process, or we're going to see devastation.
All right, thank you all for your thoughtful answers. We have time now for the wrap-up. So this is 1 minute per person, and we're going to start with Ms. Womack.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for being here this evening, and for everyone who's watching online or who's watching the replay. I am Lakeisha Womack, and I am one of your candidates for North Carolina's 14th Congressional District. I believe that our country has better years ahead of us than we have behind us, but we do need to send representation to Congress who will fight for those ideals and the values for working families. I think that there's a lot of problems that we have, but I think that there's also opportunity for solutions. A lot of our agencies have been decimated by this current administration, and there's an opportunity for us to reevaluate what can work and what will work for the future generations. It doesn't mean that we put back what we had, but that we really look at what does our country really need, because we have a lot of people who are in the working middle that they make too much money to be able to get any assistance, but they don't make enough money to be able to afford all of the necessities for their families. And those are the people that I want to fight for, to make sure that you have enough money that you can pay your bills and you can take care of your family. So visit my website for more information, womack4nc14.com. Thank you.
And Mr. Caldwell.
Thank you again. Again, I am Brent Caldwell, running in the 14th Congressional District. If you were curious about some of the things I said, please visit my website, caldwellforcongress2026.com. The fundamental point that I want to get across tonight and in this campaign is that these are not normal times, and we should not pretend that they are. When the U.S. president is talking about running for a third term, when he is sending troops to American cities, when he is disregarding due process, when masked armed men are grabbing people off the streets, that is a time when we should all have great alarm. Our founding fathers are rolling in their graves right now at this current situation, and it's incumbent upon all of us to take a stand and say there is a better way. That is what I'm doing on my campaign, and I invite all of you to join me in doing so that we can fight for economic justice in this country and to get things back on track where we have an American government that works for Americans. Again, Brent Caldwell, CaldwellForCongress2026.com. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Mr. Carbo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Gastonia. It's very nice to see everyone today and speak. Like I said before, I'm running because I want to see true fundamental change in this country. I want to run on economic populism. I really want to see true change in this country. When I was born, like I said, the debt was $6 trillion. It's now $38 trillion. We spent $8 trillion on war alone. I want to see things like free public education, like Medicare for all. Instead of spending $5 trillion a year on middlemen, let's just have a single insurance that insures everybody so people don't die from medical debt. Instead of spending money on useless wars, we spend money on our future, on our kids, and our elders. I would like to see fundamental change with policies that work for all of us. Like I said before, Medicare for all, universal health care, public education, and high-speed rail. Things that are beneficial for our country. Thank you, and I'm looking to earn your vote.
All right, that concludes this portion. Thank you all for joining us this evening. As we transition, I'd like to ask Ms. Barr to come up. And I'm going to invite my little friend here to walk down there instead of on the table.
So lonely up here.
All right, well, we've now entered the fireside chat portion of the night. Thank you for
So lovely
joining.
to see you.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, Tim Moore is unable to be here this evening, so we do have a video introduction that he's made, but since you are here in person, I would like to start with you. And again, these are the Republican candidates for the same U.S. House seat 114 that we just, 14 that we just heard. So please, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, y'all. I am Kate Barr, and as Pat said, I am one of your Republican candidates for District 14. And I'm going to be super transparent with you. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm progressive. I changed my party registration back in May because I believe that voters deserve a choice. I believe our country is on the wrong track. I believe that our maps are so gerrymandered that in pretty much all of our voting districts, there is a candidate who will have an easy pass to get back in office, and I don't think that's right. I think that our job as voters is to hold our leaders accountable. That is what democracy is based on. And so I decided to run in a, let's call it, unconventional way in order to give you all the choice that you deserve. Because this is a business association event, I'm going to veer a little bit off of my usual voting map conversation, which puts people to sleep, but I love. And I want to talk to y'all about business, because it does connect to this run. Come back in time with me to 2016. I gave birth to 2 babies. First was my baby girl, Winnie, and the second was my baby business, which is called Pip and Grow. Thankfully, Winnie is still with us, and she is thriving and amazing, and I adore her. But unfortunately, Pip and Grow is no longer here. It closed its doors in 2022. I was CEO of that business for 7 years. We were wildly successful. We were featured in multiple national news outlets. We received national awards from the Small Business Association. I was in Forbes magazine 4 times and even named to the Forbes Next 1000. But we were regulated out of existence, along with dozens of other companies. And it wasn't because the product was unsafe. It was because a lobbyist with a lot of money was able to successfully lobby to shut us down. And people were robbed of the right to choose what kind of products they want for their babies. And that is very similar to what I am doing here, which is to make sure you are not robbed of your right to choose who should represent you.
All right, well, thank you. Now, if we could cue up Mr. Moore's video. We'll hear from him, and then we will ask the same questions you heard from the previous group.
Hey, this is Tim Moore, your congressman. I really wish I could be with you in person tonight, but I'm here in Washington for votes. I really want you to know how much I appreciate the chance to represent you, and just know it is truly the honor of my life to have this job. I also want to thank the Gaston Business Association for hosting this event. You play an incredible role in strengthening our local economy and shaping the future of our region, and I'm really proud to work with you to help this area thrive. You know, during my first term, I'm proud that we've hit the ground running. One of the biggest wins was the passage of the Working Families Tax Cuts. This legislation delivers historic tax relief for families and stands as one of the most significant pro-growth efforts that we've seen for small businesses in decades. It makes the small business tax deduction permanent, preserving the 199A deduction that is expected to generate, get this, over $750 billion in economic growth and to create more than 1 million new jobs on Main Street. It restores full expensing for new factories, equipment, and research, bringing back manufacturing to the United States, and we're seeing that right here in Gaston County and in our region. It also eliminates federal taxes on overtime and tips, which saves the average worker, get this, nearly $1,500 a year. It removes federal taxes on Social Security benefits for most seniors. You know, for a typical working family, this legislation is also projected to increase the take-home pay by more than $10,000 a year per family. That's incredible. That is life-changing. It also strengthens and makes permanent the Opportunity Zone program, which is unlocking more than $100 billion in private investment in rural and distressed communities. And listen to this, as for parents, it expands access to child care while making the paid leave for tax credit permanent to better support working parents. Looking ahead, one of my top priorities is tackling the housing affordability crisis. Every family deserves a fair shot at the American dream, and that starts with having a place to call home that you own and that you're not having to pay rent. That's why I've co-sponsored multiple bipartisan bills to expand affordable housing. One strengthens housing credits and modernizes the rules that slow down new construction. Another clears out outdated federal restrictions that hold back manufactured housing, which remains one of the most affordable options for families today. I'm also introducing legislation to help first-time home buyers with down payments so families can enter the market and put roots down in the communities they love. And one way we're looking at doing it is allowing folks to use their 529 account that's used for education to also be able to use that to purchase a home. It makes sense to me. Listen, thank you for your time tonight. I look forward to seeing you back home soon. God bless.
All right, so all questions will go to you now. Yeah.
Great.
And although there's nobody else at the table, try to keep that to the 1 minute time frame.
Sure.
So how do you define success in serving as a U.S. House Representative, and what is the most important skill required to be effective?
Success, I think the other candidates covered pretty well, is being able to serve the constituents and meet their needs effectively. I think a core value of mine is integrity, and that is important, especially in this day and age in a representative. I will always be honest with you. You may not like what I have to say, and that's okay, but you will know exactly where I stand and exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. We genuinely need people who are ready to look at problems in a different way and ready to build a better version of America on the other side of this. And that is what I hope to do.
All right, well, speaking of solving problems, let's talk about the federal budget deficit and the national debt. And as you heard the other candidates discuss, my question was, if elected, what specific reforms would you propose to reverse the current financial trajectory our nation faces?
So when we talk about deficit, we talk about like money leaving, but we also need to talk about the money coming in. And too much of that money is coming out of working families' pockets. Honestly, watching Tim's video made me wonder if I actually was a Republican after all. I don't know. I agree with so much of that. We need a huge working class tax cut. We need 0% federal income tax on the first $100,000 that any family earns. There's a trio of bills put together by the patriotic millionaires that it could accomplish just that. It would also raise minimum wage to $20 an hour, and it would make all dollars equal when it comes to taxation. Right now, our tax system is designed to help rich people get richer, instead of helping all of us get a leg up. You all need to be able to pay your bills. You know what costs you the most money. We can't tackle housing, child care, grocery bills, all of that separately. You just need more money in your pockets.
All right, next question. Didn't get a chance to ask the other candidates of this one, so it's new. The most recent Gallup poll has congressional job approval at around 15%. How would you work across the aisle to enact legislation for the good of all citizens?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who thinks that Congress is doing a dreadful job. So if they called me, they would also get the same answer. I imagine many of you feel the same way. We are not a polarized nation the way we have been led to believe. We agree about so many things. We agree about keeping our children healthy. We agree about everyone needing a quality education. You can look at polling data. 74% of us think that tariffs are bad for the economy. There's broad agreement. And the reason we don't have policies that reflect that agreement is that 83% of the US House is elected in non-competitive districts, which means they don't answer to voters, they answer to corporate special interests, and they answer to high-dollar donors. So, I think when we have a new Congress that is actually representative of the American population, we can accomplish a lot across the aisle.
Thank you. Let me get to the question of the large-scale institutional home buyers and the effect that has on the rental component. What is your position on that issue?
Yeah, I mean, the government is supposed to serve you, the people, not multinational corporations. So clearly, when we are in the middle of a housing crisis, we should be passing legislation that prevents that housing crisis from getting worse. That's part of the job. The other thing we need to do is eliminate tariffs on Mexican gypsum and on Canadian lumber. Those are core ingredients for building homes, and it makes our homes more expensive based on the tariffs that are in place today. We need to reevaluate our H-2A working, like guest worker visa program to make sure that folks can come to this country legally and help us build the housing supply that we need, but they need to be able to do it in an ethical way. Right now, when you have an H-2A visa, you are tied to the employer that brought you, and our employers are mistreating workers in some cases because they are beholden to them. There are a lot of different ways to attack this housing issue, and we need to do all of them. But again, number one is you need more money in your pockets.
All right, and the next question is the artificial intelligence environment, and what role do you see the federal government playing in regulating that?
I work with AI a lot, and it can do a lot of things to make our lives easier. It's also hurting the environment. This is an international conversation. It's not just about the US regulating something, because whatever choice we make as a nation, China is going. They are building AI, they are building data centers, they are developing new tools, and they will be a part of our lives, whether we like it or not. And so part of this is having really important conversations on the international level with our few remaining international allies to discuss how we can best deploy AI to support ourselves as a species, frankly, without all of the harms from personal data being captured, I feel like it's stolen, to all of the data centers harming the environment. It's a lot of regulation, but it's an international conversation.
And what other federal priorities do you plan to address if elected?
So I've mentioned this trio of bills. So that's a $100,000 tax-free. First $100,000, even Jeff Bezos gets it. Lucky him. After you start making $1 million a year, you pay pretty high tax, because if you are a part of a business that is making a lot of money in America, you are probably benefiting from American infrastructure. Amazon is only able to do business because they can drive on the roads that we built. So they should be paying into our system more than the people who are driving the trucks themselves. I want federal fair map legislation. We deserve competitive elections. That's what democracy is about. That's how voters have true power in order to hold their leaders accountable. And then I want to work on fair prices. I do believe in a universal healthcare system like Medicare for all. I think that that's how we actually limit our healthcare costs rather than watching them balloon.
All right, and now we're at the wrap-up stage, so you have 1 minute to give your wrap-up.
I am so grateful to you all for having me here tonight and for hearing me out and for being willing to even consider this unconventional campaign. I hope that what you're taking away is that this is about you being able to choose. It is about you having the opportunity to ask hard questions of the people that are supposed to represent you and expect them to answer, because you deserve that. This is like the job performance evaluation. You don't get to skip your performance evaluation and keep your job. And so my mission in life is to ensure that we conduct as many performance evaluations as we can and on as many elected leaders as we can, regardless of party.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. All right, the next office is for Gaston County Board of Education. There are 2 Democratic candidates for that seat. Lee Dedman was not able to be present today, nor was he able to supply a video. The other candidate is not able to be here in person. That is Shay Adams, but we do have a video from Shay, so if we could play her video now, I would appreciate it.
Greetings. My name is Shay Adams. I'm a candidate for Gaston County School Board, Gastonia Township. My apologies that I'm not there in person. However, for your safety and mine, I made an executive decision that my driving skills aren't up to par to handle snow or icy roads. With that being said, I want to share a little bit about myself. I joined the Gaston County community in 1990. I am a proud graduate of Hunter Huss High School, Husky Pride. I then took my talents to Florida A&M University and obtained my Bachelor's of Science in Healthcare Management. In 2003, I rejoined the Gaston County community and I served as a social worker, giving more than 10 years in the human services field, specializing in children diagnosed with mental health disorders. I then also served 5+ years as an educator, starting as a long-term sub, EC teacher, and a certified registered behavior technician. I'm here to advocate for financial stability in Gaston County School, which includes teachers' compensation and retention. I'm also here to support low-performing schools and scholars. I also want to make sure safety in Gaston County School, buildings, and sports facilities. You can follow me on my social media page, Shay, C-H-E-Z, Adams for Gaston. Or you can go to my website, www.shaychezforgaston.com. I'm willing to answer any questions or comments. Early voting starts February the 12th through the 28th. Election day is March the 3rd. In closing, I urge you to take a family member or a friend and cast your vote for Shay, C-H-E-Z, Adams for Gaston County School Board, Gastonia Township. You all have a good evening.
All right, so we picked up a little bit of time because of that. And next up, if we could have the candidates, please, for Gaston County Board of Commissioners, Ms. Cloninger and Mr. Steins. And this is for the Dallas Township on the County Commission. Well, good evening to you both. Thank you for joining us. And we'll get right into the 2-minute introduction. Mr. Steins, if you could start, please.
My name is Dennis Steins, and I'm from the Hardin community. Lived in the Dallas Township in the Hardin community all my life, 67 years. I married Starla Johnson from Long Creek Fish Camp, one of the Johnson girls, 47 years ago. We raised 2 kids in the public school system. They're both adults. We have 3 grandkids that are all raised in public schools. And I feel that my decision to run for county commissioner is to better Gaston County for a place to raise your kids and to make it a better county to live in. And I want to thank the Gaston Business Association for having us here tonight, and that's about it.
Ms. Cloninger.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Cloninger, and I'm running for re-election as Gaston County Commissioner representing the Dallas Township. I have a deep love for this county and the people who call it home. My knowledge of the community, its history, and long-standing relationships, combined with my 34 years of working for Gaston County, allowed me to understand how local decisions affect our citizens. I wanted to continue to use that knowledge to make thoughtful decisions that strengthen our communities and serve our citizens well. I grew up in Cherville, where my parents had their own business. I saw the hard work it took to support not only my family, but also to serve the community by giving back. This is something that you, as members of the Gaston Business Association, understand. Our community is important, our businesses are important, and the health of both is critical. I worked for Gaston County for 34 years of what is now the Kathy Mabry Cloninger Center, a domestic violence shelter. I managed a very tight budget and had to solicit donations so we could serve the people who needed us so badly at very vulnerable times of their life. My strength, my compassion, and my leadership are proven. For the last 3 years, I have served as your county commissioner. Gaston County has more than 60 departments and areas. I have met with these leaders. This was a huge undertaking. I did it because it was important for me to have a solid foundation for which to make solid decisions. I make decisions on what I believe is right for Gaston County, and those decisions matter. Thank you again for the Gaston Business Association for sponsoring this event.
All right, we'll now get into the questioning. We'll start with Ms. Cloninger. How do you define success in serving as a member of the Board of Commissioners? And what is the most important skill required to be effective?
I think in order to be successful, you have to lead with faith. You also have to live with integrity and strength, and to do what's right for the citizens of Gaston County.
Thank you, Mr. Steins. Again, how do you define success, and what are the important skills to be effective? So how do you define success in serving in the role of a commissioner, and what are the important skills required to be effective?
Well, I think the important skills will be to just advocate for the citizens of Gaston County and to try to be as visual as you can with all tax dollars spent. And there's some programs already in place, and there's some that are not in place, but I would like to be a part to implement some of those programs.
All right, thank you. So we will go back to you, Mr. Steins, with the next question. Gaston County is experiencing dramatic growth and associated infrastructure demands. As a member of the Board of Commissioners, what would your approach be to funding solutions to these pressing needs? Yes, sir. So the county is experiencing dramatic growth and associated infrastructure needs. As a member of the Board of Commissioners, what would your approach be to funding solutions for these?
To move forward with envisions of Gaston County, protect farmlands and expansion of greenways, and create a better partnership between planning and zoning to minimize ground disturbance.
Ms. Cloninger?
I think that we need to provide responsible growth and smart growth within our county as to the services that we provide to the community.
All right, let me stay on that question for just a little bit, because it really gets to the heart of how that is done from a funding standpoint. So with these demands created by growth, what will your approach be to funding solutions for those growth challenges?
I would do it by a combination of voter-approved bonds and state and federal grants and public and private partnerships.
Thank you. Ms. Cloninger?
I think that a lot that we do with a community involves working and developing the partnerships and the relationships with others within the community to be able to assist.
Thank you for the follow-up. All right, this is to Ms. Cloninger. Strong relationships with our state delegation in Raleigh are important. Please give examples of your approach to building constructive partnerships with our elected officials at the state level.
I think that with the division that we have within the state, that we all have a very good working relationship with them, and that we're able to contact them when there's issues that will arise that we need support and their guidance from.
Mr. Steins, again, the relationship to our delegation.
Be consistent and respectful and proactive in district meetings. Provide local needs to our representatives. We have a breakfast once a month with a group of men where we discuss these needs. And we need to take these needs to our representatives. And I would promote open communication between all elected officials.
All right, back to you, Mr. Steins, for the next question. Much of Gaston County's historic economic development efforts have focused on industrial and manufacturing projects. While this approach has been and continues to be beneficial, how will you support the diversification of the local economy to sustain prosperity? Mr. Steins.
I would adopt smart land use policies, share costs with developers, and I would advocate for municipalities to stop spot annexation.
Okay. Ms. Cloninger, and the question again is focused on supporting the diversification of the local economy to sustain prosperity.
I think that with that growth looks different from every municipality, and that we all have to come with a solution that is workable within each of the county municipalities.
Right, and the next question starts with you, Ms. Cloninger. It's really kind of a follow-up to that answer you gave. How do you plan to work with municipalities to make a difference county-wide rather than just within the Dallas Township?
I think a lot that we do as commissioners is that we break barriers, and we are able to connect different ones to resources within the community, and I think that we are able to work together through the different elected officials within the municipalities.
Mr. Stein, same question, working across the county.
Could move forward with Envision Gaston Plan and protect farmland and expansion of greenways, create a better partnership between the planning and zoning committee.
Okay, thank you. We'll start. The next question goes to Mr. Steins. And what other county priorities do you plan to address if elected? What other priorities that you haven't already discussed do you plan to address if elected?
Well, I think the homeless situation, I know most of the projects and stuff are within large municipalities to get these people help, but with the growing, with the homeless, it's not only addicts out here. You got people that can't afford housing or rent and the bills that come along with it these days. And there's going to be some normal people like us that's going to be out there on the street sometime. And I think that needs to be addressed. And I think the county needs to form some kind of partnership with these municipalities and try to secure property and facilities to house these people.
Ms. Cloninger, again, what other county priorities do you plan to address if reelected?
One thing that I would like to focus on is how we plan for the future, and that we need to be more proactive than reactive and planning ahead for growth, infrastructure, and services before they arise.
All right, well, thank you very much for your brevity. I was saying before we started, that is a lost art, so congratulations on that. We're now to the point of the wrap-up, so you each have 1 minute to tell the audience, again, who you are and why you're running. And this will start with Ms. Cloninger.
I believe that Gaston County must focus on being good stewards of tax dollars people work hard to earn. I have heard from citizens who are concerned about government spending. The best way is to address that is getting back to the basics and delivering core services well, and to focus on what truly matters. Every business in America must make decisions, and county government should be no different. I'm running for re-election. I have relationships already in place and unmatched knowledge of Gaston County's government. I'm ready to continue to serve the citizens of our county with a vision for the future. I hope that during this time together this evening, I've earned your support and your vote.
Thank you. And Mr. Steins, your wrap-up minute.
Again, my name is Dennis Steins, and I was born and raised in the Hardin community in the Dallas Township. Been there for 67 years. And this wasn't an easy decision to run for this office. I just feel that there is still some room to get Gaston County residents back on track with common goals and common spending. And I feel there's a lot of fat in government still needs to be cut, and there's programs that need to be funded. One of them is the CTE program at Gaston College. That's going to put a lot of workforce in there. And if you hadn't visited that CTE building at Gaston, I suggest you do so, because it is a state-of-the-art building. And I thank the Gaston's Business Association for having us here again tonight. And God bless, and everybody have a safe trip home.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. All right, the next seat, these are the Republican candidates for North Carolina House of Representatives, District 110. Dr. Caroline Eason and Mr. Kelly Hastings. Oh, there you are. Good evening to you both. All right, this is where the questions get deep, hard, and relentless. Again, these are the Republican candidates for representative in the North Carolina House for District 110. And I'd like to start with Mr. Hastings, since he's right here to my left, for the 2-minute introductory statement.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thanks to everyone who helped put on this event. And I wanted to share a couple of things about this election. So, as many of you know, I had planned to retire. I had a lot of people who approached me about running, and in my leadership style, I support delegation and getting out of the way and letting other people empower themselves to serve. Well, the people who aggressively contacted me ended up, and they could not run for various reasons. So, numerous people asked me to run again. There were a couple of candidates who I knew were considering running for office that I put their names forward for vetting, not for endorsement. And I knew that my opponent was thinking about running for school board over in Lawndale in Cleveland County, where she lives with her family, her dad, mom, brothers, who are here. And so at a certain point, we decided that I would run again because people asked me to run again. And that was before I knew that my opponent was going to run for state house. I thought that she was going to run for school board. And so I thought that I owed an explanation as to what happened during this process, and it's an honor to be here.
Okay. Dr. Eason?
Yes, thank you for having me today. My name is Dr. Caroline Eason. I'm an Upper Cleveland County native. I have a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from UNC Chapel Hill. I grew up in a family of small business owners, and I've taken over the reins of my family's small business alongside my dad. It's Task Drug. We're an independent pharmacy chain in Cherryville, so Gaston County, Vale, and Maiden, North Carolina. I became active in politics a couple of years ago when our family's pharmacies faced potential closure due to market consolidation in our industry. I got really involved, started advocating to House members, Senate members at the state level, and this past session I helped move a bill through the North Carolina House, and I gained firsthand experience of the legislative process. I fell in love with it. It really showed me how important it is who sits in those seats. We need competent and ambitious leaders who understand policy and how it impacts everyday citizens, families, small businesses, you name it. I'm a strong Christian, I'm a lifelong conservative, and I'm an advocate for limited government, fiscal conservatism, and a free market. I'm so happy to be here tonight, and I do appreciate Representative Hastings putting my name in for this seat, thinking that I would be a great candidate for it, and I look forward to earning your votes.
All right, so we'll get to the questions. We'll start with Dr. Eason. How do you define success in serving as a state legislator, and what is the most important skill required to be effective?
All right. I define success as a state legislator as going to Raleigh and serving the people who hired you to be there. The most important skill, I would say, is emotional intelligence. It's the ability to listen, the ability to learn about multiple perspectives, and to respond thoughtfully rather than to react politically. That means being accessible and present in our district, guided by what our small businesses, our families, and just our everyday citizens need from their leaders, not what looks good in headlines. It means passing practical legislation that protects public safety, reduces costs, especially in healthcare, and supports good paying jobs and more. I want to be a strong advocate for our communities, and at the end of the day, success isn't measured by titles or press releases. It's measured by being able to say that my legislator was there, she listened, and she made life better for District 110.
Mr. Hastings.
I would have to say the most satisfying and most important is successfully helping constituents who are caught in the red tape. That's a very satisfying feeling. I would also say maturity. We need to be mature when we're there amongst other people from around the state and with our colleagues. And also, one of my leadership principles is trust. I think that trustworthiness is probably the most important leadership principle. As far as the skills, definitely statutory interpretation. I've been the primary and lead sponsor for over 25 bills and or resolutions that became adopted. And when you're the lead sponsor, you have to be cognizant of the fact that your legislation could be challenged in court, and also listening skills to help efficiently help the constituents.
All right, thank you. Next question goes to Mr. Hastings. So continued growth of the region requires investment in transportation infrastructure. Funding large-scale transportation projects is complicated and requires a mix of local, state, and federal dollars. How will you work with local governments and the business community to secure funds for these needed investments in Gaston County?
Well, that's what we've been doing for 15 years, and I think I see my colleague, Representative Corbett, out there. We shared transportation together. We've been through a lot. We've been through a huge learning curve. We've been hit with a lot of unforeseen circumstances. One, on certain projects, we had a federal lawsuit. Another project, we had a runway at the Charlotte airport that interfered with it. So, but the way that we have decided to work with local officials to make the best decisions on a data-driven process of transportation is to include our local elected officials at the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is housed here in Gastonia. And that organization is made up of local elected officials who serve as board members there. And so we're in the process right now of seeing approximately $2 billion of transportation projects.
Excuse me, Mr. Hastings, you may need to use the microphone.
Yeah,
We're
in the process of right now, after our hard work, seeing approximately $2 billion of transportation projects for our area.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Eason?
Yeah. Can you repeat the question once more?
Sure. I'll truncate it a little bit here. So we're seeing rapid growth in transportation infrastructure needs. How will you work with local governments and the business community to secure funds for these needed investments in Gaston County?
Right. Okay. So my primary role as a state legislator would be to make sure our district is positioned to compete for and bring home state dollars. The DOT does work with local governments, NPOs, and the business community to evaluate the projects, and the larger ones get shifted to the strategic transportation investment process. And as a legislator, I just want to advocate for strong planning, regional alignment, and data-driven prioritization with local matching funds, hopefully federal grants, and public and private partnerships for this funding. I also want to help legislation move through that might be similar to things we see in South Carolina, like pennies for progress. We, right now in North Carolina, we're prohibited from the county level to offer a referendum to citizens to pay a penny tax for transportation initiatives. And I would like to give this power back to the people and make legislation where voters can decide on referendums like these. Thank you.
All right. The next question is to you, Dr. Eason. Employers across all industries are struggling to attract, develop, and retain a talented workforce. How do you propose supporting efforts at the state level to address this critical issue?
Right. Workforce development's huge. When you look at some numbers, Cleveland County's unemployment rate is 3.8%. Gaston County's is 3.6%, relatively high compared to the rest of the state. That numbers tell us that employees are here, the skilled labor just isn't. I look forward to, if elected, working with the North Carolina Community College system to make sure that these training programs match what's actually needed in the workforce. Our 58 community colleges offer a lot of opportunities, GEDs, credentials, certificates, and associate's degrees, so that people can gain these skills at any stage in their career or life. There's also scholarships available for these. I want to support legislation such as the Propel bill that would help workforce preparedness and work with leadership to revise the best versions of these bills and move it through so that job seekers and employers are connected in North Carolina for the right opportunities matched with the right people.
Mr. Hastings?
Well, it's important to enhance and support student learning at all levels of education. We definitely need to continue to work with our community colleges and our universities. The training at community colleges is super important, and we need to continue what we passed at the General Assembly called Career and College Promise, and that allows students in high school to work toward a 2-year degree or a trade while they're in high school. And just so everyone will know, based on our work, we were recently named #1 in the country for workforce development by Site Selection magazine. And I think that's really important to point out, and that's what we've done with hard work. And so those are some of the key points of workforce development.
All right, Mr. Hastings, next question to you. North Carolina teacher pay continues to lag behind the national average. What is your position on the current funding level, and what would you propose to change?
Well, remember, when we took control of the General Assembly in 2011, our predecessors before us were furloughing teachers, and they were giving small raises and large tax increases. And what we've done, starting in 2011, is we've started implementing pay increases, but also implementing income tax cuts. And remember, we did not furlough teachers. Republicans did not furlough teachers. We also now picked up their liability insurance for them. That pays about $400 a year that they don't have to spend out of pocket. And if you'll remember, our school boards in Cleveland and Gaston County, just in September of last year, were touting some of their improvements in proficiency, in growth, in graduation rates. So I think all of that combined, we're doing well, especially in education and school choice.
Thank you, Dr. Eason.
Yes, so investing in schools is so important, and educated youth sets the precedent for your future political, economic, and social success, especially here in Cleveland and Gaston counties. Right now, there's a baseline teacher pay across the state of North Carolina, and to make the pay more market-aligned, counties have stepped in and offered teacher supplements. There's real inequities in these. So Cleveland County's teacher supplement is $5,896, Gaston's is $4,082, and we're right beside each other. And we also border Mecklenburg County, where this supplement exceeds $10,000. So it can take away our talent, where first-time teachers are more compelled to go work where they can make more money. I would like to move towards paying teachers a market rate from the state level and restoring things that have been taken away from them by the General Assembly, such as incentives for longevity. The teachers who educate our children are critical for the success of our district, like I said, and I look forward to making sure the state and the counties have balanced funding towards our education system.
And Dr. Eason, the final question is to you to start. What other state priorities do you plan to address if elected?
Yes. So lowering healthcare costs, increasing the access of healthcare, and allowing the freedom of healthcare choice are key priorities for me. I'm a pharmacist. I work in a small pharmacy, so I have an insider's understanding of the healthcare system and steps I can take to begin fixing it. I watch daily as health policy impacts everyday people at the pharmacy. Patient choice is a tenet of a free market, and that includes your ability to choose a doctor, a specialist, a pharmacy, your medications, your vaccinations, and more. Insurers, faceless middlemen, and the government shouldn't be making healthcare decisions. I helped pass a bill in the North Carolina House last year related to pharmacy access. I spoke in committee. I advocated for it to North Carolina House members and senators, and supplied real-life data from the citizen perspective to inform this. I'm ready to go to Raleigh, but this time as a legislator to continue this fight for less expensive health care and better quality health care.
Mr. Hastings, if you're reelected, what other state priorities will be your focus?
I think definitely continuing to enhance the livelihoods of our teachers and state employees. Remember, we don't just have teachers, we also have state employees that we have to consider. That's important. And also economic development, especially our tax focus. You know, remember, we've moved our income tax, personal income tax, from 7.75% to this year to 3.99%, and our corporate rate went from 6.9% to a soon-to-be 0%. We cut the sales tax, we eliminated the estate tax, we eliminated the surcharge tax, and we simplified the tax code. We passed tort reform. We empowered our high schools and community colleges with career and college promise. We passed enabling legislation so local governments can focus on economic development. We invest hundreds of millions in workforce development, and we invest billions each year in education at all levels. So I think we'll continue on that path.
All right, well, that concludes the questions. Now time for your 1-minute summation. So we will start that with Mr. Hastings.
Okay. First of all, it's an honor to be here. Just want to remind you of what we've focused on since 2011. Lower taxes, less crime, economic security, student learning and school choice, life. We eliminated partial birth abortion. We've enhanced our Second Amendment rights. We implemented voter IDs. We banned sanctuary cities. We kept men out of women's sports. We prevented grown nude men from entering the changing facilities with little girls. And remember this, we've been named numerous times under our leadership #1 for business in the country and #1 for workforce development. It's an honor to be here, and I hope to continue to serve.
And Dr. Eason.
So again, my name is Dr. Caroline Eason. I hope to represent our district in the North Carolina House, District 110. In closing, thanks for letting me be here today. I'm happy to be here. Experience does matter, but only if it's paired with engagement, accountability, and results. I bring real experience, even without holding a seat for 16 years. As an engaged citizen, I've helped pass legislation. I've worked in health policy in a role at UNC Chapel Hill. I've been on a legislative steering committee advising policymakers in DC on health policy. In the past year, I was offered a job in government affairs in health policy in DC, yet I turned down the role because my training, my values, and love for home are better used right here serving District 110. Time in office doesn't guarantee progress. In fact, experience can sometimes enable complacency, and voters can see that reflected in voting records that stop evolving with the people that they represent. I'm engaged, motivated, and ready. I'm ready to listen, ready to work, and to advocate fiercely for our interests, our families, our small businesses, and that's the kind of leadership I'm offering. I would appreciate your vote.
All right, well, thank you both for joining us this evening. All right, and the last office up is for Gaston County Sheriff. So this is the Republican primary. Now I got to stand up. Thank you for that break. That was good. My old back. Unfortunately, Chad Hawkins was not able to be here this evening, so this is candidate Robbie Waltrip, so it would be another fireside chat. But welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll start with 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for allowing me to be here tonight. I want to thank the Gaston Business Association and you all for being here as well. My name is Robbie Waldrop. I'm a conservative Christian, and I was born and raised here in Gaston County. And after what I consider a successful athletic career, I came back home, and I wanted to serve my community. So I've worked with the Gaston County Police for 22 years now. And during that time, I've worked in the capacity of patrol and investigations. I was a canine handler and trainer for 10 years. I worked in our undercover narcotics division for 4.5 years. And I was on our SWAT team for 9 years and just came off last year. And now I currently work as our director of 911 Communication Center. I oversee 65 employees and $6.2 million budget. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to serve the citizens of Gaston County and what I do.
All right, we'll jump right into the questions. This question might sound familiar because I've asked it to everybody. So how do you define success in serving as sheriff, and what is the most important skill required to be effective?
Yeah, so I think last week, I said success in any elected official's role is defined by the people. I believe we have informed voters, and they're going to let us know, in my case, every 4 years, whether we're upheld the standard of doing our job or not. How that's measured, I think, is I would use the word judgment. And the reason I use that word is I say that, it encompasses integrity and ethics. It's kind of all-encompassing to me. You have to be able to look at your resources, and all those things come into play when you're looking at how to establish a great agency. And so I think the word judgment comes to mind is one that I would use for success.
All right, thank you. What is the most significant issue facing the sheriff's office, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, there's several. I would start with staffing. Day one is going to be staffing. I don't believe, our most critical resource there is the jail, and it's the people who work in there. So if we can provide more staffing, focus on retention, and I think that, that builds morale. So all those things will increase morale there, which is very much needed within our jail. And yeah, we continue to produce throughout the agency by increasing staffing first.
Right, and really for more public edification, do you explain what the role of the sheriff's office is here in Gaston County?
Yeah, so Gaston County is unique. We're the only county in 100 in North Carolina that the sheriff's office is the only one who only does the jail. They're responsible for the security of the jail, the courthouse, and the civil process inside Gaston County. So there really is no criminal responsibility, although we do have, which I plan on doing, is a lot of assistance in that area.
Okay, thank you. It's a little bit unique, and I thought it was helpful for the audience and the millions watching online to know
Absolutely.
what we're doing. The next question, multiple police departments operate within Gaston County. How would you encourage collaboration to drive efficiencies among these entities?
Yeah, good question. So currently, like next week, I have a Chiefs meeting. Being a director over 911 communications, I have the privilege of attending Chiefs meetings where the chief of every municipal department attends this meeting, or they're required to, and we discuss strategy, and it's information sharing. And I think that's a good opportunity if you have a good leader as sheriff to be able to bring those agencies together and figure out the deficiencies throughout the county. It doesn't matter what agency it is. And when we can provide, the sheriff's office has that unique ability to be able to provide assistance to these other departments. And so I think that's a good time during those meetings to hash it out, information sharing, resource sharing. I believe that's how we do it.
All right, thank you. As you described the operation of the sheriff's office, it's clearly a complex and multi-million-dollar entity. What experience do you bring to the role of sheriff that equips you to lead such an organization?
Are you talking about just budget-wise or the entire organization?
Your choice.
Okay. So I talked about earlier my career in not only athletics, but also on the SWAT team. I left that SWAT team as a team leader. You don't get that role by being a follower, by not being outspoken and doing what's right. So I think it takes someone like that to lead a large organization where you lead from the front. And that's what I've always done, and that's what I plan on doing. And every unit that I've been in and been a part of, and I lead from the front, we've had such a following. It's just natural. And so my goal is to bring that to the sheriff's office day one.
All right. Well, since you mentioned budget, tell us about your approach to a budget of an organization the size of the sheriff's office.
Yeah, so I believe this year they're forecasted for a $37 million budget, which is quite large. And currently, in my current capacity right now, I have a $6.2 million budget. And I had a lot of success last year in my budget. I had a $6.2 million budget, and I turned back in $1.2 million. And that's due to being fiscally responsible. I mean, I treat that money like it's my own. And my wife can tell you I don't just give out money left or right. So what I do is I have a budget meeting every 2 weeks. And I meet with my team and we discuss strategy on, throttling our finances, because this is taxpayer dollars that we're spending here. So I want to make sure that I'm being frugal and being responsible with your money.
All right, so you had mentioned one of the responsibilities of the sheriff's office is to run the Gaston County Detention Center or jail. What improvements are needed at that facility?
So one thing that, it really hasn't come up that much in talks, but realize the age of the structure now and the abuse that it's taken for, roughly 25, 26 years of use, and thousands of inmates in there have come and gone. Just the age of the facility, and it's taking a beating, just maintenance-wise. But also structures, we have to have, more responsible personnel management. We have to be able to move people around to the places that they need to go to be able to run that jail efficiently, because that's our prized possession here in Gaston County when you're talking about the sheriff's office.
Tell us more about how you would do that as far as moving personnel around to meet the needs.
So the sheriff's office has quite a large halftime budget. So a lot of the public doesn't know, we call halftime part-time, basically what it is. So it's employees who can come and work up to 20 hours a week. There's no benefits associated with it, but those are the employees, and most of them are retired law enforcement. So it gives us the opportunity to use that knowledge that they bring to the table and plug them into places that they can be efficient, and it's also efficient for the citizens. But it also helps the ones who are there full-time to be able to somewhat take a break sometimes, and for the overall operation of it daily to run smoothly.
Thank you. How would you build trust between the sheriff's office and the diverse communities throughout Gaston County?
You said diverse?
Diverse communities.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we need to do a better job of that. And that's across the law enforcement spectrum. I don't think it's just a sheriff's office duty. But currently right now I work at the communication center. Like I said, you may not know where it's located, but I'm on Highland Street. And so I'm a block away from Irwin Center. And it's not uncommon for me to walk down there and talk to people, talk to kids. And if they'll let me shoot basketball, I will. So I think we need to have more community engagement such as that rather than the scheduled, parade or anything like that. It needs to be impromptu. We need to show the community that we're out there and that we trust them as much as they trust us.
Right. And what is the one thing that differentiates you from your opponent in this race that would cause people to vote for you?
Well, I'm not going to point to just one. I'm very fiscally responsible, and so that is a major one. But I think the biggest thing that separates us is throughout my career, I lead from the front. And anyone could tell you, in any situation I've been in, I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything that I haven't done myself or am willing to do at that point in time. I'm used to kicking in the door and being the first one through the door. And I do that because if there's shots fired, I'm going to take them for my guys. And so a lot of leaders like to sit in the corner office and give direction. I'm not that guy. And so I think if you want someone who's going to lead from the front, set the example, and have people follow a good example, then please vote for me.
Well, I guess my last question was the best question. It was better than starting out strong. But that was the last question. So now we're at the wrap up. So you have 1 minute to conclude.
Yeah. I want to thank my wife, and I want to thank all my friends and family, especially those of you here, my team. I am the reason I'm on this stage because of you guys. I said that last time, and I truly mean it. Without you and without the support you've given me to be here and to do the things I'm doing to affect change and to want to make a difference in Gaston County. And it's not just my home, it's your home. We're all either raised here or we're here now. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am doing this because we need change, and I'm doing this because I feel like I am the best change for this county, and I'm going to give you everything I've got. Day in and day out. In 22 years at the county police, I have taken 0 sick days. Most people can't say that. I take pride in that because you'll know that when you vote for me, I'm going to show up every day to work. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes the formalities. I, again, want to thank Gaston Christian and the Gaston Association of Realtors for sponsoring this, and I appreciate you all attending in person and virtually. Your interest in being informed voters is greatly appreciated. I know people say it's important to go vote, but if you don't know why you're voting, I think that's dangerous. So you coming out showing interest in these candidates is fantastic. I also want to thank each of the candidates because their willingness to sacrifice their time and energy for the service of Gaston is commendable, and running for office is not easy, so I really do appreciate them willing to put themselves out there. Before we close, I wanted to make sure you all know that the GBA is working closely with a group called Country First Academy, and essentially they go around the country and help introduce people to what it means to serve in public office and how to run campaigns. It's a nonpartisan activity. I think that's critically important that we continue to engage people and see the value in running for office. We can get lost in all of the sound bites out there in the world, but it's really important work and it's hard work, regardless of what office we just heard. The details are tremendous in each one of those roles, and so we want good people, well-intentioned people to know what it takes to run for office. And so to that end, on Monday, February 16th from 11 to 1 at the GBA office, there'll be a workshop for potential candidates to learn more about what it means to serve and how to run for office. Registration and questions, if you have those, you can visit our GBA website, and we have a few slots available. Love you to join that. So please I want to remind you about the recording of this event is on our GBA will be on our GBA website as well as our YouTube page. And thank you again for joining us, and travel home safely.